Well, everybody knows it. I just need to admit it to myself. This is now a full-on restoration project. So a few weeks ago, I had the bright idea of case swapping my 1991 NSX. And well, here it is. This is my case swapped 1991 Acura NSX. Now, even though the engine and transmission are in the car, we have a very long ways to go. Things escalated rather quickly a couple days ago when I decided to grab every piece of hardware, every bolt, bracket, nut, fastener, and ship it all out to get re-zinc plated. And now that all the hardware is going to be brand new, we might as well refurbish all of this. This is all of the suspension components. We have cross members, we have the rear subframe, control arms, braces, brackets, coilovers for the rear end of the car. And as you guys can see, all of this is very crusty. Now this is what I think is so cool about this NSX and all NSXs. Not only is the entire body and all of the body panels on this entire car aluminum, which of course makes her much lighter than it would be if it was all steel, they did the same thing with all of the suspension components and the subframes. So everything you see right here, minus the rear sway bar, those dust shields, and the coilovers, is all aluminum, which of course makes it quite a bit different of a restoration process than, say, if we had a steel subframe out of the Evo 8. You'd sandblast that, powder coat it, and you're done. Aluminum, you gotta handle it a little bit differently. So of course, the first thing that we need to do is get all of this grease and grime off of here. We have two identical pieces here, both in about the same condition. Let's go ahead and do a test piece and make sure we can get this restored properly before we tackle all of this. So at first is going to be a simple degrease and pressure wash. As you can see, even the strongest of degreasers isn't really touching whatever kind of grease is caked up on there. So we need to take it a step further. This is gasoline, and as you can see, it ripped right through that grease. All right, so we're off to a pretty good start. If we wanted, we could leave this piece as is, but as you can see, it's still fairly pitted up. There's some deep grooves in it. It all depends on how far we want to take this. I want to take this all the way, so let's keep going. So I went ahead and used one of the Prime MX scuff wheels to go ahead and smooth out all of those deep gouges. But now, as you can see, the finish is quite inconsistent. We could finish this whole piece with the wheel, but then when it comes to like that subframe, there would be no way to refinish that on the wheel. And of course, I want all of these aluminum pieces to have the same finish. So here's what we're gonna do. This is the sandblast cabinet, and in it I have a very fine glass bead, which tends to work very well on aluminum. So there it is before, all pitted up, and there it is after. You ready for this? Here's a before and an after. Now we have one small piece done. We still have all of this. So we have a ways to go. Once again, the process is degreaser, and if degreaser doesn't cut it, gasoline and then degreaser. If there's any deep scratches, hit it with the Prime MX scuff wheel to buff out those scratches. Run it over to the sandblast cabinet, hit it with a nice glass bead, and this is the end result. You know, I guess that cross brace wasn't the best example of the true condition of the parts. Here's one of the control arms. This thing is fully cleaned up. Cannot get any more of this gunk off here. So this is exactly why we are going through and glass beading all of it, because as soon as this is out of the glass bead cabinet, it will look like this. Much better. Much better. So here is one of the, I believe this is a upper control arm, it appears. We do need to pop out this ball joint. I don't want to sandblast this with the ball joint in because the joint is packed full of grease. And if we get sand in there, well, the joint will be no good. I think it's in good shape as is. I will check it. If it needs replaced, of course, we will replace it. But the first thing we need to do is remove this collar right here. I will do that by using this little 3-prong puller. Well, this is quite interesting. These ball joints are not replaceable. It looks like they are, but I'm assuring you guys, they are not. There's nothing to press out. It's all aluminum. I don't know how they're assembled. The ball joints are good, so I'm just gonna get these things cleaned up as best as possible without destroying the ball joint. Now, thankfully, the ball joint on the knuckle comes out. As you can see, there's a clip there. So let's pop off the boot, pop off the clip, pull out the ball joint so we can get this piece cleaned up perfectly. Well guys, I made a very critical error. I don't think I just now made this mistake, but I'm assuming when I was disassembling the car, I made this mistake, and man, it might cost me a lot of money. So this here is the rear knuckle. This here is where the upper control arm ball joint goes in. The steel sleeve goes in there. And I was blasting it and I noticed, well, I cracked it. I think it might be fixable, especially being that this steel sleeve goes in first before the ball joint does. So I'm gonna bring this out to the guys at Straight Fabrication. I think they should be able to fix it. I can weld aluminum. I'm not comfortable doing something like this though. An expensive part and obviously a very critically important part. We got this repaired, all welded up, machined back down, and you cannot tell that I cracked it. I have been trying to figure out what to do with these control arms, being that we cannot remove the ball joints. I think I'm still gonna glass bead them. We just need to mask that off really good, because if sand gets in there or the glass bead gets in there, it's gonna be a nightmare to get cleaned. I hope that works. Here is the upper control arm all finished up. This thing turned out absolutely beautiful, and there's no sand that got in the ball joint area. After about 13 hours straight of cleaning and glass beading and cleaning, all of the aluminum pieces are complete, and I'm gonna go ahead and coat these pieces. I have all of the parts hanging from the powder coat oven rack, and here's why. I've decided I'm gonna go ahead and Cerakote all these pieces. Cerakote is a very thin coating. It's pretty much like ceramic coating the exterior of your car, but it's a very durable, thin coating for parts and pieces like this. Now I'm gonna be applying the high gloss ceramic clear, which is an H300. This is an oven cure. Think of Cerakote, kind of like powder coat, a lot thinner, and it is ceramic based, so it makes your parts very easy to clean. What I'm trying to accomplish with the Cerakote is keeping these parts looking like this, pretty much brand new forever. If we were to assemble the car like this, here in a few years, the parts would go back to looking exactly how they were yesterday. And I do like the oven cure just because after you put the parts in the oven for 2 hours at 250 degrees, the parts are fully cured. They do offer an air cure if you do not have an oven to bake them, but that takes, I think it's 3 or 4 days to fully cure. The oven cure is a 2-part coating, so here's part A. We're gonna do 18 parts of this to 1 part of part B, which is the catalyst. All right, we have about 40 grams of this to 2 grams of the catalyst. That is not very much coating, but that should be enough for all that. So I let the parts air dry outside for 15 minutes. Now they're going in the oven for 2 hours at 250 degrees. Now a quick disclaimer, Cerakote does recommend and require that you blast your parts using 100 grit aluminum oxide. Obviously we did not do that. I have Cerakoted over glass beaded parts in the past. I've done it many times, and on stuff like control arms and that kind of stuff, it seems to hold up just fine. Now if you're gonna do like a cylinder head or something like that where it's exposed to a lot of heat, obviously we would want to follow Cerakote's guide. But when we're going for an OEM look, when it's all nice and clean with the glass bead, the Cerakote I've sprayed in the past has held up just fine. I just pulled the parts out of the oven and let them cool down. Here's how everything turned out. Like I said, as soon as they are out of the oven, the coating is fully cured. These parts are so slick, it's like they're just waxed. And you'll see if we do a water test, the water quite literally just beads right off. Now, of course, we didn't need to Cerakote the pieces, but if we wanted everything to stay this clean and this perfect for a very long time, Cerakote was definitely the right move for all this stuff. Unfortunately, there is one downside. I'm not sure what happened right here. It's like this part, I don't know, has a little bit of staining underneath the Cerakote. There's no way to get any of that off unless we were to re-sandblast and recoat this piece. But thankfully, that is gonna be all hidden when the car is assembled. So I am not all that worried about that little staining going on right there. If you look closely, you can see there's a tiny little bit of shine. It's very OEM looking. I really enjoy the glass beaded and Cerakoted look. It's my go-to with all the restorations. So here's how they looked before, and here's how all of the parts look now. That is quite the difference. Now imagine if the transmission case and the engine block looked like this. That would make for quite a nice restoration. All right, guys, day 3 of building my case-swapped NSX coming to a close. If you guys want to pick up the Cerakote that I applied on these pieces, I'll go ahead and link it down in the description box below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you boys in the next video. Goodbye.